What is up, guys? How are you all doing? I'm doing great, thanks for asking. And right here with a quick video, I want to talk about one thing only, and that is Fallout 4. Yes sir, Fallout 4 was released not so long ago, and I've been playing it a ton. I mean, as I make this commentary, it's been about 4 days since it's come out, maybe 5 or something like that, and I've put in over 27, maybe 28 hours into the game. That's a lot of hours, and it's all totally worth it because it's a fantastic game. It's one of my favorite franchises in the world, apart from Metal Gear Solid, and this video is going to be my review of it. As usual, we're going to be talking about the good things and the bad things. And the great thing about this video is, first of all, it's Fallout, which is fantastic. And there are so few bad aspects of the game that you can count them on one hand. But let's get right into it. Now, it's a Bethesda game. First and foremost, I have 100% faith in them. They know what they're doing. They're very experienced. They're very talented. They're very skillful individuals. The guys and gals over at Bethesda, they make the world's most superb games ever. I mean, the Elder Scrolls games, Fallout games, even other games like Dishonored, they were all amazing. However, nothing is perfect, and there are a few issues in this game as well. And one of the major ones that I came across, that I personally have experienced, is the fact that this game, Fallout 4, has a lot of things within it that is directly taken from Fallout 3. Now, what do I mean by that? It means basically something existed in Fallout 3, they have taken it and put it into Fallout 4. It's a cut and paste or a copy and paste, and they haven't really changed it or tuned it or kind of adjusted it to fit this Fallout 4 world. It's a direct copy and paste. Now, that's not a problem because Fallout 3 is a fantastic game. It's one of my favorite games. Like I said, the Fallout franchise is amazing, and I continue to play Fallout 3 and even Fallout New Vegas before Fallout 4 released with mods and whatnot because, again, it's a really fun game. However, it doesn't mean that I want things from Fallout 3 within Fallout 4. Now, I'm not talking about Easter eggs and references and little things here and there that remind you of Fallout 3 and you're like, oh, that's a cool reference, or oh, that's a cool little feature. No, I'm talking about things that they have taken from Fallout 3 and directly implemented it into Fallout 4 without adjusting it and changing it. Now, in my opinion, they have done this for one reason. Fallout 3 is one of the most popular games ever. In fact, it probably is the most popular game within the franchise, some could argue. And they wanted to get that feeling or bring that feeling back to the community. Now, that's not a bad idea because, like I said, Fallout 3 was a very good game and people loved it. So they wanted Fallout 4 to have that similar feeling. The problem is, Fallout 4 is a different game. It's in a different setting, it's in a different scene, different characters. It's supposed to be totally different, and for the most part it is. 95% of the game is different. However, you've got that small 5% where they've literally taken stuff from Fallout 3 and they've put it into Fallout 4. And one example that I can give you that will illustrate this point is this. And don't worry, I'm not going to ruin or spoil the story, so no spoilers here. You don't have to worry about that. But during the game, at some point, you have to go to this settlement. I won't say the name of it, but you have to go to this place. And when you get to this place, this settlement, they ask you a few questions. They try to gauge your psychology. So you know the questions that are traditionally asked in Fallout games, like, oh, you find yourself in this situation. Do you shoot the person? Do you hide? Do you run? Do you call the authorities? Etc, etc. So questions like that, just to gauge your character, just to see what kind of personality you have, and just to analyze your psychology. Remember, there is no right or wrong answer, it's just your opinion. Anyways, those questions that they ask you in Fallout 4 is the exact same from Fallout 3, or perhaps Fallout New Vegas. I can't remember which one, but it is the exact same questions, pretty much. And I feel as though that's, okay, that's kind of a cool reference to the previous games, but why is it exactly the same? Because it plays a very pivotal role in the story, you know, that kind of test or those questions. And again, I won't spoil it and tell you what it is or why they ask those questions, but it's a very pivotal thing. So I would have thought that they might have fine-tuned it and changed it a little bit. But no, it's pretty much the exact same questions from Fallout 3. And there are other things that exist that have this kind of similar feeling. Like I said, it's very few and far between, but personally, I'm not a huge fan of that. I would rather have little tiny Easter eggs and little references here and there rather than something that's really pivotal in the story. But the other major negative aspect in the game is the AI. I mean, the AI is fucking retarded, absolutely retarded. And I'm not just talking about the enemies either, I'm talking about the AI in terms of your companions, especially Dogmeat. Now, the problem with the AI is their pathing is kind of a little bit sporadic, a little bit erratic, and a little bit peculiar, especially with your companions such as Dogmeat. They more often than not don't do what you tell them to do. Problem is, you might command Dogmeat to stay and he might just keep running at someone, or you might tell him to follow you and he will just be frozen in that space until you go back to him and tell him to stay and then follow you, because he's kind of like stuck in this limbo stage. And also, when you tell him to stick close by, sometimes he doesn't listen and he just charges at an enemy when you're trying to be sneaky or stealthy, and that completely blows your cover, giving away your position, and now you're in a firefight with super mutants that you are trying to avoid. Not a nice situation to be in. And also, your companions get in the way a lot, especially Dogmeat. Like I said, he kind of runs in front of you, or other characters, other companions, they kind of stay in front of you, or they trap you in a corner. They're really like up your ass. I mean, all it takes is for the AI pathing to be a few steps back. That's it. That's all I ask, or a few steps back or a few steps forward. And perhaps there should have been a companion wheel like in previous games where you can tell people to use ranged weapons or melee weapons or keep their distance or maybe stay close. And perhaps a feature like that exists in the game and I haven't found it, but I'm on level 15 right now in game and I must say that I haven't come across something like that at all. Perhaps I missed it, perhaps they didn't put it in the game, perhaps it is in the game but it's unlocked later on for a perk. I don't know what it is, but it should have been in the game right away. But that's just a minor point. The major point was the AI and the AI pathing. Another gripe I have with the game is the map. The map size is very, very small, and compared to previous Fallout games or previous Bethesda games such as The Elder Scrolls, the world of Fallout 4 is not that big. You can walk from one side of the map to the other very, very quickly. I think it takes about 11 minutes. I have a theory about why this is, and I will make a separate video about this, and it's not a huge problem as such because even though the map is smaller, the world is smaller, there is a lot more to do because they pack the world full of stuff and you can enter more buildings, you can do more stuff, you can discover more locations, and there is also another reason that I have in mind. It's just a theory of mine, it's not confirmed, but I'm going to be making a separate video about it. But in terms of the sheer size of the map in Fallout 4, it's not that great. It could have been bigger in my opinion. But thankfully, like I said, there's a lot to do, so you don't really notice it too much. And finally, the other negative aspect of the game is of course the bugs and glitches. It's a Bethesda game, so naturally there's going to be a lot of bugs and a lot of glitches. It's also an open world game, so again, there is going to be many issues within that game or within that world that the developers may have not come across, especially when you have millions upon millions of people playing it and breaking it and trying to sort it out at the same time. Of course, bugs and glitches will crop up here and there, which is not a bad thing as such because traditionally it has always existed in Fallout games and even the Elder Scrolls games. And I'm sure that there will be patches and fixes that will be put out by Bethesda, and even if they don't, it will most definitely be addressed by the modding community. Some might argue that the responsibility should be on the developers. They should make the game absolutely perfect at launch and that they shouldn't rely on the modding community to fix their issues. But personally, for me, it doesn't matter. As long as they get fixed, I don't care who fixes them. As long as the game works properly, that's all I care about. But yeah, in terms of the bugs and glitches, there are a few notable ones that I came across. For example, when you enter VATS, sometimes you can't highlight or select an enemy. Sometimes even if you do select an enemy and you want to get out of VATS, your HUD goes weird and you can't really see yourself in the game. It's kind of like the cinematic view. And sometimes when you enter a terminal or when you use your Pip-Boy and you exit it, your arms or your limbs or your gun is just gone. It's just completely blank. It goes invisible. You can still fire your weapon, you can still shoot, you can still aim and use VATS, but your arms disappear. It's kind of funny when it happens, but it's very immersion breaking. And similarly, when you go into a terminal or your Pip-Boy and you want to select something and then you press tab if you're on a PC like me and you go back and then you want to select something else, your mouse doesn't register. You can't go down to the next option. For example, you have option A and option B. You click option A, you read that log or that message in the terminal, you press back and you try to highlight option B, it doesn't let you. So for a few seconds, your game is frozen there, and after a couple of seconds, you can select the second option. I don't know why there is that latency or lag issue from going back into a previous menu and selecting something else, but it does exist and it's very annoying. Which brings me on to another point, the voice acting. I mean, the voice acting is fantastic. However, there's sometimes a disconnect between what the character is saying and what is written on screen. Basically, the audio just cuts out. So you can see that the character is clearly saying something, but his or her voice is not heard. It is just silence. But that's pretty much it for all the negative aspects of the game. Like I said, there isn't that many, there's only a handful, but they are there. But in terms of the positive aspects, I'm not really going to get into detail about them because it's a Fallout game. Like I said, it's 99.9% amazing. There are very few things that are bad with this game, and even then, it's not entirely game breaking as such, it's just little annoying things that crop up now and again. And personally, I am very satisfied with the game, and I cannot wait to play more. But in terms of the positive aspects, I'll just give you a quick rundown of the list that I have, which I absolutely love, such as the scenery and the settings. The game is beautiful. I know it's quite ironic to use that word, especially when you're talking about a post-apocalyptic scene like that, but I must say the world does look amazing. They did a fantastic job in making it seem real and really grounded and gritty, kind of like a Quentin Tarantino movie, but in a video game. So it's quite dark and twisted and everything looks dead, but there is a little bit of vibrancy that pops up every now and again, and it really is a sight for sore eyes. The story, as always, is fantastic. The characters and the voice acting is amazing. The customization is unlike anything I've ever come across before in any game in regards to your character, your weapons, your apparel, you know, the things you wear, the things you have, the things you own, and just little details in the world such as the items, especially the fact that every item has a use now is amazing. This fine attention to detail is what makes this game exceptional. And the fact that now you can have your own settlements and you can run your own towns and whatnot, and you can even have your own caravans, trading and bartering, and basically creating this world from the ground up, which is something that had been missing in Fallout New Vegas and Fallout 3, which used to be my biggest complaint. The fact that civilization was carrying on and trying to adapt and evolve and survive, and yet nothing was being fixed. Sure, in Fallout 3 you wanted to follow your dad's footsteps and you wanted to get that water purification up and running to make the water better in that environment so that the people could thrive. However, in terms of settlements and towns and cities and areas, there was nothing that was being rebuilt. However, in Fallout 4 you can actually recreate the old world and you can try to fix things, and make it look better. And there's a wide variety of character models, so it doesn't become monotonous and boring. Each character does feel quite unique, especially in terms of the clothes that they wear and their looks as well, because you can adjust each character to make them look like a unique and individual person, with their hairstyle, their facial features, what they wear, and even tattoos and things like that. All in all, this is a fantastic game, and I would suggest that you buy it. If you like RPG games, or even if you like FPS games, there is a huge FPS element within Fallout 4, you have to buy this. It is an absolute 10 out of 10. But yeah, that's pretty much my review of it. Like I said, I didn't get into too much detail about the good things because everyone knows what Fallout is. You know that if you buy the game and you play it, you're going to have an absolute stellar time, and it really doesn't disappoint. It's money well spent, and like I said, I cannot wait to play more. But that's pretty much the end of my review. Let me know in the comment section below if I missed anything, or if you would add anything to the list, whether it be the good things or the bad things about the game. Thank you for listening, and hopefully I'll see you guys in the next video.